I was thinking this week about how insane it is for anybody anywhere to believe any of the reporting coming from the terror regime, Hamas. I mean, we're being constantly updated on the death toll numbers, how many Palestinians have died versus how many Israelis have died. They report that Israel has blown up a refugee camp. They report that Israel has blown up a hospital, that they're killing women and children, that they blew up an ambulance, that they're preventing humanitarian resources from reaching the Palestinian people. And all of it is coming from the mouths of the same people who chant death to Israel and death to America. The same people who torture their own people. The same Islamic terrorist group who killed and injured and raped and murdered and decapitated and pillaged thousands of Israelis on October 7th, not to mention the endless barrage of missiles that they have fired for years. And yet, we're supposed to believe what that same group is reporting? Don't buy it, folks. This is what propaganda is, and Hamas is using it to their advantage. They want, and quite frankly, need the support of the Western world. So they lie and manipulate in order to make them look like the oppressed, while Israel is made to be the evil oppressor. Now, here's one thing that Hamas tactically accomplished for the purposes of propaganda and their own protection. I'm about to play you some audio of a phone call between an IDF officer and a Gazan civilian. Before I play this, we have to understand Israel's objective. They were specifically attacked by a terrorist organization. They immediately declared war against them, and they vowed to destroy them. In other words, Israel's central focus is eliminating them from existence, as they should. They're doing so in order to preserve the lives of Israelis and, by expansion, those who live elsewhere in the free world. That means they will kill as many terrorists as possible, and they will destroy their infrastructure, their bases of operation. And guess where they are and where these things are located? Northern Gaza. Now, as I've said numerous times on the show, Hamas uses civilians on purpose as human shielding. So it is to their benefit to prevent people from leaving northern Gaza. Yet, before all this counteroffensive began, Israel dropped thousands of leaflets from the sky and into northern Gaza, instructing Gazans to leave the area. Why did they do that? Because they're not a bunch of genocidal maniacs like the Islamic resistance movement. Now, you can literally pull up photos and videos of Gazans lined up in their cars for miles trying to leave the area. But there's something wrong. The Times of Israel reports the Israeli Defense Forces released an audio recording of an officer speaking to a Gazan man, during which he describes how Hamas is preventing people from evacuating from the northern part of the Gaza Strip and even shooting at them. The IDF says soldiers have been calling Palestinians in northern Gaza in recent days, instructing them to leave the area for their safety as the military intensifies strikes in the Gaza City area. In the newly released call, the IDF officer can be heard calling on the man to head toward Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, but the Gazan responds by saying Hamas is blocking all the roads. Here is the audio from that call. I will translate for those of you listening on audio. The officer says, "Is this Muhammad?" He says, "Yes." And he identifies himself. He says, "In order to ensure your safety, I'm asking you to urgently go towards Khan Yunis. I don't want you to put yourself at risk." Now the Gazan says, All the roads are blocked. The officer says, your current location is unsafe. He asks, who blocked the roads? And the man replies, Hamas. He asks him where the roads were blocked, and he tells him where. He asks him how they blocked the road, and the man says, they're sending everyone back home. He also says they're using cars and troops to block them. The man says when people try to leave, they're being sent back home. The officer asks how they're blocking the route. He says they're shooting at people. What are they shooting? Are they shooting at people trying to leave? The man replies, yes. So who's responsible for the civilian casualties in Gaza? Primarily, it's their own government, Hamas. Israel doesn't want those lives lost. That's why they're urging them to leave. No matter how much you spin it, that is the truth. But there are hundreds of Israelis and Americans being held hostage. So Israel is conducting its war against this evil regime, and as we discussed a couple weeks ago, the unfortunate reality of war is loss of civilian life. People will die as a consequence of proximity, and the ones responsible for this proximity is the terror regime, Hamas. Getting quality, good-priced meat products is proving to be increasingly difficult these days. With Bidenflation, the prices of everything in the store is going through the roof. When you make fuel more expensive, that costs the farmer more, it costs the shipper more, it costs the grocer more, and it costs you more. That's why you need to check out Good Ranchers. They'll ship directly to your house. They're 100% American beef, chicken, seafood, and pork, all sourced from independent farmers in the US. So check the link in my show notes and use the code RANCHER10, RANCHER10, for 10% off their best-selling Ranchers Classic box.